Hey everyone, I'm Madonna. This is David, and we want to talk a little bit about teenagers today.
Okay.
So I had someone yesterday who his grandchildren don't have a lot of self-esteem, even though they have really good skill, which to me was really interesting because I was saying to David before that I sort of had no skill as a teenager. I went in plays and I sang, but I was never very good at singing. I was never very good at dancing. I never, had any super skills until kinesiology.
Right.
So, it's sort of one of those things that I wonder. And then I was chatting to a lady at a business meeting today. And again, she's building this amazing little business and she has no self-worth, self-esteem. She did not want to own anything about deserving anything. It was really interesting.
Oh, what do you mean deserving?
Well, because that's what she kept saying. She kept saying, except she was doing an affirmation, I do not. Oh, she kept saying, I do not consent, because of shenanigans.
Oh.
So anyway, and I said, well, actually, your brain doesn't hear the do not. So actually, what your brain is hearing is I consent.
Okay.
So with affirmations, we've got to do it in the positive, in the now. But, because, teenagers, and I know you treat some teenagers and get good results. So how do we start shifting that dialogue to children so that they have belief in themselves?
Well, teenagers are different from children, right? So one thing about teenagers that's really interesting is that dopamine, which is our reward center. So at about early teenage, 12 to 14, the baseline dopamine starts to drop.
Right.
Right. And this continues until late adolescence, which is in like up to 2021.
Yep.
And what happens is the baseline dopamine's dropped, but they get double dopamine hit for novelty.
Right.
Novelty. So in new things, right? Most people, when they get older, they don't really want to do any new things. They really just want to keep doing it the same.
Yeah.
Right. But teenagers being put in this position, and it's like another way of describing it, it's called local consciousness.
Right.
Local, whereas adults around 27 or 28, your prefrontal cortex finishes growing around 25. And then usually around between then and 30, people start getting a more future orientation.
Right.
Which are future orientated goals like having kids or career. And those things solidify in the late 20s. And during that time, the dopamine levels return to normal.
Right.
And then they start global thinking.
Yes.
Right. Whereas teenagers do localized thinking. And so basically all they want to do is fill in their day. Like,
That's why they get bored easily.
That's why they get bored easily.
Right.
And so this, like, how do you work out why they're bored? Because they actually need a double hit for novelty to get them going.
Right.
So there's different.
That was my dopamine hit.
Right. Well, there's different theorists like Dan Siegel.
Yeah.
So he's a family therapist, but he talks about this and he says, once you understand this as a parent or a guiding figure, you realize that you can steer them around by giving them novelty, like making sure they have access to novelty. Because if you don't give them access to novelty as a parent, they'll find their own.
Right.
And often that's not that good. So if we can steer them in the way of all new activities, so we find sometimes they might be doing something, but then they'll stop doing it. And sometimes for low self-esteem, but then they need a new thing. Because as kids, you try different things out. And as you try them out, you learn a bit of something.
Yeah.
And then you might try something else. So we shouldn't think that teenagers all think the same way as us, like we're going to do this thing and then think ahead and we're going to like do it for our whole life.
Yeah.
For kids to get into global consciousness as teenagers, it's very good.
Yes.
You're lucky as a parent if your kids are thinking like that, thinking into the future. But generally, the teenage, and you can see it, localized consciousness.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
So how does a parent do that? So it's more like if they're playing guitar and they're not enjoying it anymore, don't make them do it.
No.
Or if they're doing horse riding and they're not enjoying it, don't make them keep doing it. Because, parents always have a monetary connection to everything. Right. So, there's a little kid I know and his parents really want him to be a good soccer player because he always wanted to be a good soccer player. He's got 6 boys, one by one, they're not being good soccer players. And the last one was like the last bastion, the last one he could push into the soccer playing. And I remember having the kid on the table and he's going, I really don't want to play soccer, but I've got to do it for dad. Right. So dad was on the side wanting him to do it.
Well, some things like that. When I was a kid, I had to play football. Yeah. I didn't really want to do it, but that was dad. And so I did 5 years of football and then changed to cricket and golf and performing in musicals. And it was like, and scout, so many things, but you can go through something for a while. And it really did benefit me while I did it. And sometimes forcing your kids or getting your kids to do something, it doesn't matter because it was novel at the time and I did enjoy it and I got very good, but I was glad to give it up after 5 years.
Right.
And then cricket, I did that for, and you do things for different times as kids. Teenagers especially, because it's a time when you're bored. Yeah. You just need something to fill it. And another thing,
how do we get their serotonin higher so that because these kids, the ones that I mentioned, right. These kids are good at things. They know they're good at it. They don't want to do it because they know they're being bullied. Or because they know they will be bullied because it's happened before.
Because they're performing.
Yeah.
But that could be stage fright.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's bullying by the other children.
Because it's an uncool thing to do?
Well, to me, it would be very cool.
But what are the kids saying?
The kids don't want to be bullied.
Yeah, but what are the other kids saying to them?
They're being horrible. They're being horrible.
Telling them it's fine.
It's horrible. Oh. Don't you know that? Kids are horrible. Maybe you never got bullied.
Oh, no, I got bullied. Oh, yeah. I know how the kids are.
Kids can be horrible. So how do you, and I know that's, we got 1 minute left. Right. So how do we keep that self-esteem? So what sort of things can we do? I suppose it's about making sure families are discussing these things.
Another thing is the more people we have around as adults that we can integrate things from.
Right.
Like, for example, if like my son plays guitar, but he grew up in a family where I play guitar, my brother plays guitar, brother-in-law plays guitar, all write songs, and his mum does it too. So they can see that around them. So it's easy to integrate them. And so getting the parents to try new things, do you know what I mean? And if they can see it around them, like it's possibly the whole creative thing, because both things you mentioned are creative things. Yes. One's doing performing, one's doing guitar. It's actually getting to do that in public's quite hard. Yeah. There's one thing practicing at home, because another thing, if kids are neurodiverse, often the perfectionism they do, like they're really good at an instrument, that's their safe space.
Right.
Right. So Bessel van der Kolk says that it's like the things we do, the perfectionism we do.
Yes.
That's a safe space for
us. Right. And that, if that safe space is then being destroyed by the kids around them.
It's no longer a safe space. Right. So therefore, can you see how it cancels it out?
Yeah.
So we've got a safe space, we're practicing, we go on stage, suddenly, what do the other boys say? Oh, that's a bit.
Yeah.
You know what they say?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a bit girly.
Yeah.
But they use another word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, but that's a start.
Yes. And I was I mentioned to my client yesterday, part of it could be externalizing it. Again, talking externalization. Mm-hmm. So the bullying we could externalize it and call it Mick.
Right, okay.
Or Trevor or, George or something.
Yeah, that might take a bit of
time. So how's George today? Oh, it was a 10 out of 10 today.
All right.
Bloody George.
Well, we'll do that later.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. Just thought we'd throw that out there. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye.